Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Rapidi's webinar. Today we will be discussing about maximizing business energy and Salesforce to Salesforce integration. I am Sirin Twiri, I'm sales consultant at Rapidi, and I'm excited to be a host for today. Here with me, my esteemed colleague Andrea, and Andrea will guide you through the essential aspects of data integration and let you know about Rapidi innovative solution. So let's check what we have on today's agenda. So we will first have an introduction to Rapidi, then we will discuss the importance of integration. The third point will be Rapidi integration solutions. Then we'll dive into Salesforce to Salesforce integration. Then I will take you into some of our customer testimonials, and I will also explain how you can get started with Rapidi. In the end, we will have a Q&A session, so please feel free to write all of your questions and doubts in the chat. So our first section, who's Rapidi? So Rapidi has over 30 years of data integration expertise. Our journey as data integration experts started back then when Microsoft was still called Navision. It was a small group back then, and our CEO, Michael Bock, was part of it. And Michael is still playing an important role at Rapidi today. So what's setting us apart at Rapidi? Rapidi is offering a flexible, simple, and robust complete solution, which is using the cutting-edge cloud technology. It's scalable and flexible, and it's not requiring any programming, so it's really easy to use. And then our worldwide customers are evaluating us with the highest rate as they are extremely satisfied about Rapidi solution, service, and support. And now I would like to hand over to Andrea. Andrea, over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So let's go to first section. So we'll talk a bit about the importance of integration. And from our point of view, it's all about simplifying the entire process. So what we want to do is make sure that everything runs smoothly and that, you know, it does not become a headache for you and your company. And if we were to go through that, oh, wait, it's running away. Why is integration important? So first of all, when it comes to your company and the integration that you have in mind, what the integration will do, it will streamline your business processes. So you connect your Salesforce orgs, and then you can share data through multiple instances. Then you will get real-time synchronization, right? So you will have, let's say, 2 Salesforce orgs, and then you want to transfer data. You want to make sure they are both up to date. So you get that via Rapidi. And then, of course, it will improve decision-making and productivity. Then what this means is that you might have information in different places in different orgs, but then through the integration, you get this unified customer data view. And then it will reduce or eliminate data silos, any manual processes, anything that is actually determining the users to have to go into each org, update information, and making sure that everything is correct. And in the end, you avoid the communication gaps. And of course, I think that overall, it will enhance your customer experience, right? So then in the end, you get to have everything there, and then you will be able to have a better customer experience, and your customers will be happier with your feedback or your engagement. Then, now, we were saying that integration is very important, of course, because it does offer you so many benefits. And from our point of view, we also think that it should be made easy, right? It should not be something complicated. It should not become a headache for you or your team. And when it comes to that, we'll talk a bit about Rapidi. So Rapidi is an innovative IpaaS. So we do focus on simplicity. So we want to make sure that our design is simple, the installation is simple, and also the actual use of it. It's a cloud integration system that will offer you pre-configured templates, right? So those templates will allow you to integrate various systems. Of course, apart from the templates, you can also have your own separate configurations, meaning that if you have something that's out of those templates, you can have it built separately, add any custom data, and you are good to go. Of course, we do have extensive expertise in integrating Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics ERPs, but we are not limited to that. So we definitely work on so many other systems, and we can definitely offer a lot of support to those customers that really want to integrate other systems. Speaking of systems, here, this would be the most common endpoint. And I think this is, this would be actually the demand that we see. So of course, we work a lot with Salesforce, with Microsoft products. But on the other side, we also, we are able to work with Hubspot. We can work with Oracle databases, or for example, with any type of system, or let's say website that is REST API based, for example. And then, of course, if you don't see your system here on the list, it doesn't mean that we cannot support it. It's just a matter of understanding how we would connect to it. And then we can definitely provide you with recommendations. And then we can tell you how we would integrate with that specific system. And of course, on the same line, so when it comes to data integration, so we are talking about Microsoft Dynamics ERPs, both cloud-based and on-premise, and they can be integrated with Salesforce or also with the Microsoft CRM, which is the D365 Sales. And also we do work a lot on data replication, which refers to integrations between systems. For example, those that are part of the Microsoft Dynamics group, right? And it can be any type of ERP or version, or finance databases, which are Navision, AX, or any system that's part of the Dynamics group. And then we have Hubspot to Dynamics Business Central, and REST API. If there's a system that we can connect to via a REST API connection, then we can also do that, and many other systems that can be added to the list. Of course, like I said, we have pointed out those systems that we have worked a lot. But again, the list is pretty long, so we can definitely work on it and integrate them according to your needs. Now, when it comes to Salesforce, in our case, Rapidi is an IpaaS with no staging of your data. So it would be very easy to configure everything. You don't need to be a programmer, or you don't need to have technical expertise. And you can connect multiple companies. You can use any type of data. You can have standard, you can have custom, anything that you have in your own environment. And of course, our subscriptions are all inclusive in the sense that you get everything from the very beginning. So usually you work on the integration, right? So you know how much time it will take, you will know the cost of that. And then post go live, you are able to get lifetime support from our team. So this means that you get specialized support in case you have any issues or any questions. Now, I think the point is to integrate, to elevate, basically. So you want to unify your systems. You want to make sure that that your data is flowing through, and that you don't have any type of data-related issues, right? So you do want to make sure that your data is visible and that it's also updated on time. Now, let's focus a bit on the Salesforce to Salesforce integration. So this is the part where we definitely will go into a lot of details. First of all, when it comes to Salesforce integration, there are quite a few use cases. Of course, we have chosen a few, but maybe you are a different case and you might have something completely different. However, what you see here on the screen, these are the use cases that are the most common ones. So one of them would be that situation when we are talking about large enterprises that operate across multiple business units. So then each business unit will have its own Salesforce org. Then we can talk about newly acquired entities that are independent and have their own Salesforce org, but they do share essential records with the main org. Then we also have that situation where companies go through this merger or acquisition, and they do need to integrate sales data, for example, from other Salesforce org. And another use case, which is definitely common, is the one where we see a migration from one org to another. So of course, when it comes to Salesforce integration, we can say, okay, we'll have a full integration, but we can also talk about a migration. So something that would happen between two Salesforce org, and it will not be something permanent, right? It will not be an actual integration, but you can still use Rapidi to migrate your data accordingly. Now, if we were to look a bit out of how this is being done right now, so we have two Salesforce org, right? So you'll see on the left, we have org number 1, and then on the right, org number 2. And then you can transfer any type of data. You can have, standard data such as accounts, contacts, products, anything like that, or transactions. But also you can have other custom objects that you are using in your own org right now. So in between, we have Rapidi. So what happens here? So you'll have data mapping and transformation, right? So then you'll have all the fields from org number 1 mapped, so then the data is transferred correctly into the second org. Then you have specific actions, so you can insert new records, you can update, or you can have an upsert. And then, of course, the third thing here on the list would be the link storages or lookup tables. These lookup tables would be the ones that will store the unique IDs that belong to these records. As you know, in Salesforce, every record will get this unique ID once it's created. So it's not something that you can modify later on. So via Rapidi, you get to see those unique IDs from both Salesforce orgs and have a clear list and have full visibility over them. Now, we'll go through them step by step. So step number 1 would be, when it comes to an actual Salesforce to Salesforce integration, of course, you have to start with the connection. So then you would connect to each Salesforce org. The connection setup is very simple. It's easy. It takes 2 minutes to do it. So once you authorize it from Rapidi, then you will be able to read the layout that you have right now in Salesforce. And by layout, we mean all those objects and fields that you have right now available for that specific connection. And then you repeat the process for the other Salesforce orgs. Then we have step number 2. Here you have to decide what you want to do. So you can say, okay, I want to create new accounts in the other Salesforce org. So then you will have an add function. If you want to say, I want to also update the accounts, that would be an update. And then you say, okay, I want to do both, and that would be an upsert. Because as you see there on the screen, we have a function that's called disable destination lookup, which in combination with add and update will trigger the use of upsert in Salesforce. So it will actually either insert or update one specific record. Then we have step number 3, which is mapping and transformation. So here you need to indicate which are the fields that you want to send over to the second Salesforce org. So you can decide how much information it has to be sent. So as you can see, when you start mapping, you will get a lot of options, for example, for a specific field. So you can simply choose from the list the field that you need, and then then map it to what you see in your second Salesforce org. So it's a pretty fast process. You can do that with any of the objects. And then once everything looks good, then you can continue and go through the next steps. And then you'll have step number 4, which would be the link storages or the lookup table. So here, what you do, you can configure the link storage to actually retrieve and get all those unique IDs that belong to the records that you want to transfer. So on the left, you would see always the IDs of the records that have been sent from the first Salesforce org. And on the right, you would see the IDs that belong to the second Salesforce org. So then it's like you see a list with all those IDs, and you will see how they match. So it's a one-to-one match, so you will know how they are supposed to be listed there. This is a dynamic lookup table. It's something that will be updated when the transfer is running. It's not something that you need to do, so it's not a manual one or a static lookup table. It will be always updated by the transfer, and it will always add more to the list as the transfer runs. Then, of course, the last step would be to set up schedules. So you want to transfer your data, you are good to go, you have everything that you need. So you want to make sure that everything from your Salesforce org will go into the second Salesforce org. And here, when you set up the schedules, you have a few things that you need to do. First of all, you have to think about a description for the schedule. And then second would be the frequency, how often you want the data to be transferred. So you can have it every 10 minutes, every hour, every day. So it's up to you. And then priority, you can decide, can be low, medium, high. And then we have error handling, error interval, and notify interval. Of course, if, for example, there's an error, then you will be able to get notifications from the platform, and then you will be able to troubleshoot. And these are things that are configured every time we have a new schedule. And then once your schedule starts running, then you will be able to see all the logs and all the information that has been transferred. And then you will be able to monitor everything on both ends. And of course, when it comes to Salesforce integrations, we also have best practices, right? Because it's very important to do it right. So first of all, you have to define the integration or migration scope. You have to think about, okay, which are the objects and the records that I do want to transfer into the other Salesforce org. So it has to be very clear, right? The purpose of this either integration or migration. And before you even do that, you have to tidy your data. You have to make sure that everything is clean, tidy, and everything is aligned in terms of the data that you have right now. Otherwise, of course, then you will have to do the cleanup later on, and this will cause even more issues. And of course, you need to create an integration plan. Always think about the data validation process. Okay, who is going to validate the data? Who is going to say, okay, everything looks okay, we are good, so this is running as expected. And then second, always have let's say a process when it comes to troubleshooting. Who will be doing that? Who is going to look into it? Who is going to take the ownership basically for that part? And again, it's very important because you might not have any type of errors, which is great, or you might get errors. So someone needs to be the owner, and someone needs to be responsible for this part. And of course, as in any project, create a contingency plan. Make sure that you have a plan B in case something happens along the way, and make sure that the plan B, it's still an option for you, and it's something that can be implemented if things do not work out. And on the same note, we'll go through a bit some Rapidi key functionalities that we have right now. So the first one would be mapping and transformation, real-time synchronization. So we have customization scalability, automated workflows, security measures, monitoring, and analytics. So I'll go through these one by one. So mapping and transformation, I covered this a bit when I talked about Salesforce to Salesforce integration, but it's important to mention that you can map and transform any data, right? So you don't really need any type of effort to do that. And we have support for custom fields, custom objects, anything that you have. And of course, we do allow you to customize your current data flows. So if you have built an integration and then later on you decide that you need to change some things, you can do that, customize it, change it, modify it. You can do anything you want as long as everything meets your requirements. And of course, we do support any objects, like I said, standard and custom. So if you have only standard, then you are good. If you have custom, the same situation, because we only need to have access to those objects. We don't really make a difference if it's standard or custom. It's more about having access there, reading the information from that object, and being able to pull the information from that specific Salesforce org. And of course, real-time synchronization. So whenever you have an integration, and also in this case, Salesforce to Salesforce, you do want to make sure that all the information is up to date in both systems. So then you get updates on your object. So it would be leads, opportunities, customers, anything that you have within your Salesforce environment. And of course, by having this integration in place, you minimize data latency. So then what you see in one org, you'll also see in the second one without having to wait and someone to actually make those changes. And then we have customization and scalability. Of course, we can adapt to any type of business processes, structures, so we can ensure scalability. If you can be a very small company or a huge enterprise, we can definitely support that and provide any type of customization that you need. Companies are different, so you can have let's say a Salesforce org that is highly customized, and that's fine because we can definitely work with that. And the same thing applies to any standard setups. We can work with very well with those as well. And of course, when it comes to automated workflows, so once you have the integration or migration set up in Rapidi, then you do get to streamline your business processes, and then you don't really need to do any type of manual work. Then you'll have automation in place for all those processes. And you get the flexibility to customize your data so that it matches your own business requirements. When it comes to security measures, that we are definitely committed to data security and compliance. We have various encryption protocols, access control, security features, and we want to make sure that all our customers feel safe when it comes to their sensitive business data. So we want them to feel good about how their data is being handled via our platform. And of course, the last one on the list, we have here monitoring and analytics. We do have this monitoring and analytics tools that will allow you to track integration performance. So through this, then you get insight into your data flows, into your actual integration and how the performance is. So how well everything runs. So it will allow you to identify any issues, bottlenecks, and then it will give you the possibility to optimize your processes and make sure that you improve them, and then you have a better performance of all your transfers. And speaking of integration and all those features, now we'll go through another section. And this would be just a sneak peek into some of the Rapidi functionalities. We have selected just a few, so then you get more details about what we can do. So the first one would be the data flow actions. This is something I mentioned when I went through those 5 steps. So what happens is that whenever you decide to set up an integration, you can think about the actual action that needs to be enabled. So you can say, I want to create a record, I want to update, I want to delete. So you have various actions that you can use. You can enable them here, and then the transfer will do that for you. Then another interesting functionality would be the write back fields. So as you see on the left, we have one field which is called store new ID field. So this one will allow you to store the ID of a newly created record into the source system. So this is something that will allow you to store that information and have it in both systems. So this is really used by a lot of our customers because they do need to have a reference for a specific record. And then on the right, you have transferred field, which again, this is a field that will allow you to write a timestamp. It can be date, time, text, Boolean. And then this will allow you to write this timestamp into the source table on each transferred records. Again, something quite common, and it's really used by all our customers because it's good to have this confirmation of the record that has been transferred to the other system. And of course, the last one on the list would be tags. So tags are more like parameters or variables that can be set up. You can have this configured at the connection or data flow level, and it can serve more, so many purposes. But I think the most common one is the one where you have multiple legal entities, and you want to group them together under the same master transfer. Right, so this is something that can be used, but of course it's not limited to that. Tags can be used to simply define all the parameters that are associated with a specific company. For example, if you have multiple companies, you can define unique parameters for each one of them and then run your own transfer according to those. Now, if we were to talk, just have a summary and just talk about the most important things, Rapidi offers Microsoft ERP and Salesforce integration, but of course, we're not limited to that. We do work on Salesforce to Salesforce integration, for example, and other types of integrations. And we do, of course, we do have experience with that and can help customers to achieve that. Of course, what we offer is a cost-effective business model. And in our case, for example, we do integrate both cloud and on-premise systems. If we're talking about systems that are locally installed, for example, we can definitely work with them. And we do provide robust development tools. We have mapping templates, which are ready to be used at any point in time. And of course, one thing that's very important is that it's approachable for non-IT users. You don't need to have any coding skills, or you don't need to be a developer to actually work on the integration and make it happen. So, and then once you go live, then you can definitely manage that without IT resources or specialized teams that would be able to troubleshoot if needed. So it's easy to manage and easy to be maintained. That's it from my side. Back to you, Sri.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so next topic. As I mentioned before, so we consider that at Rapidi, we're not only integrating data, we integrate in success, as we are offering an all-inclusive investment model. So as a customer of Rapidi, you will get access to our integration platform, integration templates, and our ongoing support. So in our integration platform, you have access to the integration configuration, advanced data toolbox, log and notifications, monitoring, and the Rapidi connector. When it comes to the integration templates, they are complete business processes, they are pre-configured, they come with best practices, they are customizable, and come with detailed documentation. And about Rapidi support, so you can use Rapidi support to maintain the integration, add fields to existing transfers, integration advisory, and of course, resolve data errors. So we are offering a partnership that goes beyond integration and a commitment to be alongside our customers in every step of the way. And now let's go to the next section, which is the customer testimonials. So at Rapidi, we are extremely proud of having our happy customers through worldwide, through the different industries, as we are maintaining the 5 stars average rating on Salesforce AppExchange and also the 5 stars average support rating through the past 5 years. And in this slide, you can see that we are sharing one quote or review from the AppExchange, from Li Chen, from Diamond Web International, where they are recommending Rapidi because they are really happy about Rapidi solution and our customer service. And now I would like to share another review, which is also on the AppExchange, from Lorraine McCracken, who is the Director of IT Enterprise Business Applications from Calories. So they started using Rapidi in 2022 as they had the need to synchronize 2 Salesforce instances. What they highlighted as positive points here is the ease that they had to configure the integration, and also the reliability of the syncing tools that has been game changer for them. They also highlighted the fact that it was really helpful to have the maintenance and updates, as we ensured that the system were always in harmony without any need of complex coding. So Rapidi has been an essential no-code solution that seamlessly integrate their Salesforce ecosystem. So for anyone facing the challenge of managing multiple Salesforce instances, you can reach out to us. And now I would like to explain how you can get started with us. And remember that the next section is the question. So feel free to write the question in the chat. So it's easy to get started with Rapidi. All you need to do is go into our website and fill in the contact form with your contact details and any information about the project that you have, whether you're willing to be a customer or a partner. And of course, we will come back to you as soon as possible and schedule a meeting and discuss. So when we start a project, we are using this five-phase approach so that we can ensure a smooth implementation process. We start with the discovery, which is the integration project scope validation and the project kickoff. Then we would go to the onboarding, which is onboarding you onto the Rapidi platform and our online collaboration, which is Basecamp. Then we will go to configuration, which is the integration configuration on our Rapidi platform and the end user testing. Then we would move to deploy to production, which is the initial data synchronization, upload of historical data, and the actual cutover to the production environment. And finally, the transition to support. So it's the post go live support, project closure, and transition to the operational support. And now it's time for your questions. So in the meantime, we'll start with some questions that we prepared. So first question for you, Andrea. Why should we choose Rapidi integration platform instead of using other standard integration tools?
Yeah, so I think here when it comes to Salesforce integrations in general, in our case, there are no limitations in terms of the type of object that you can use or anything that has to do with the integration itself. So you can use any type of data, anything that you have in your Salesforce environment and connect them via Rapidi. Whereas there are other options, of course, that will allow you to connect your Salesforce orgs, but there are either limitations on that, or you do have a very high cost to be able to achieve that. And of course, here, I think in our case, we have a very clear process when it comes to Salesforce integration, what needs to be done, how things will be done. And, it's something that has proven to work, basically.
Okay.
But of course, I think when it comes to the data itself, it's very important to choose a platform that does not, limit you in any way, right? And it allows you to integrate anything that you have. So that would be point number one. And of course, then point number two would be the would be the actual support that you would get from Rapidi post go live. So basically what happens is that once the integration is completed, then you get lifetime support from our side. So it can be anything, issues, questions, concerns, and then you get an answer from a specialized team member. Whereas other integration tools might not provide you with the support that you expect, in the sense that in some situations you get access to a sort of, let's say, general support, but you do not get someone that would be specialized and provide you guidance when it comes to troubleshooting or fixing anything in the production environment. So that would be, again, a very important point. And then the third point would be transparency, in the sense that when we talk about a Salesforce to Salesforce integration, we do mention, okay, from the very beginning, what would be the cost, what this means, what needs to be done on both ends. So everything is very clear. And also anything that you get as part of our package. Whereas there are other companies, of course, that can provide you with this type of services. And again, a lot of things are not included in your initial contract or package. So then you can expect some costs later on. For example, there are situations when if you have custom objects, if you have anything that's very specific to your org, then you might end up paying more to actually get that integrated. So this would be more or less the point. But yeah, we can definitely discuss more about this topic.
Yeah. Andrea. So we have a question in the chat. I'm going to share. It's about the integration between Salesforce and Dynamic 365 Business Central. So it's the topic that we had in the last webinar. But I think, yes, we can go through this and answer. So it's saying how to handle with custom entity which is created in Business Central. Standard API is not exposed the custom entity. I don't know if it's clear for you.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to Business Central and Salesforce, so on the Business Central side, the connection would be done via OData. So basically, if you have a custom page, which is quite often, you have just a custom page that you have created, you simply need to expose it via the web services in your BC or Business Central environment. So this is something that, for example, we have customers that use a lot of custom pages in Business Central instead of the standard ones. And the thing that they do, they just expose them via that page that I mentioned, and then they are visible on the OData connection that we set up. So yeah, I think that hopefully that made sense. If not, you can definitely reach out to us separately, and then we can also show, organize a demo, and you can see how we connect, how we see data, and how everything is organized.
Awesome, Andrea. Next question. So a question that we have sometimes. So how can we set up data integration project in 3 steps?
So here, I think step number 1 would be to know what would be the scope of this integration. This is very important. So you need to know what you want to integrate. Step number 2 would be your connection. So basically, you need to connect to, let's say, the Salesforce orgs or the other systems that you have. When it comes to Salesforce, it's very easy to connect. You just authorize the connection and you're done. With other systems such as, Business Central or any other ERP, then you have a different connection type. But again, it does not take more than half an hour. So that would be very important also to have the connection and make sure that we get to read the information from your environment. And then step number 3 is to synchronize your data. Make sure that the information from the source, from what you have, is it a Salesforce org or other system, flows into the other system. It can be a different system or the second Salesforce org.
Thank you, Andrea. And then how can we ensure the best data mapping?
So if we talk about this part and we focus on Salesforce to Salesforce, we have to say that in order to ensure the best data mapping is, number 1, clean your data in your main Salesforce org. Make sure that everything is all good. And then when you start thinking about mapping the data, then you have to look at how the data is structured and organized. If you have restrictions that are being set up, if you have any type of flows, anything, any automation that exists in your current environment, make sure to also replicate that in the second Salesforce org, so you don't have mismatches on that side. And I think this applies to other systems as well. You have to make sure that what's in one system, you also see it in the other system. If you have discrepancies, then you should actually expect to see a lot of errors, while you are trying to transfer information. But yeah, that would be more or less about data mapping.
Okay, thank you. And then why it's best to be prepared when handling errors?
So here, I think it's important to start this preparation from the very beginning when you're actually working on the project. So when you work on, Salesforce to Salesforce integrations or migrations or any type of integrations, then once you have the connection set up, then you have the data mapping, and then you start testing. That's the place where you have to get familiar with all the errors that you might get. And that's the place where you can explore and discover and see, what works, what doesn't, and if it doesn't work, what type of errors do I get? So then while you are doing that during testing or UAT, then you will be able to be prepared for the production environment, and then be and then not get scared when you get to see errors in the production environment, and see, oh, what do I do with this one? So I think preparation is key. Do it from the very beginning, and then you should be good to go. A good thing is that when it comes to Salesforce, they do provide like really detailed error messages. So they give you a lot of information about what's not working. So it does help you a bit. So this is different from other systems that they barely give you something, like what this error means. In their case, they explain which is the record that's erroring out, what's the problem with it. So you simply have to check it, look at it, and see the field that has that issue, and then fix it. So it's definitely easier with Salesforce. And yeah, when it comes to Salesforce integrations, then you will have your life will be easier than when you have an ERP with a CRM. But yeah, that would be.
Thank you. And then, which systems does Rapidi support?
So we covered this a bit, and we mentioned that we do work with a lot of systems, but right now we have focused on the Microsoft Dynamics product and Salesforce or other CRM. But of course, we can work on so many other platforms or ERPs or CRMs. Because we have the possibility to extend our support for such platforms or applications or anything that you might have. I think the idea is to understand, which is the system that you have in scope for this integration, see how we can connect to it. And if it's REST API based, then that's definitely a good starting point. We can look into that and then provide you with, recommendations, any ideas that we have when it comes to, how the integration would take place. We do have that slide with some of the systems, but of course, you can have something completely different that's not there, and we support it, for example. Like we already have something built for it, but it's just not on the list. So it's just a matter of asking, asking questions about it, and then we'll be able to help with that.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so I'm going to share another question from the chat. It's about bidirectional integration. So entity-wise primary system will define. So for example, when Salesforce is primary, when syncing the customer, but item ERP application is primary, is it possible then to define when integrate multiple entities bidirectional?
Yeah, so when you integrate two systems, so I think this is in the context of Business Central and Salesforce, from what it seems. So if you talk about one ERP and one CRM, and you want to transfer data bidirectional, then you can do that. You just have to decide which would be the primary keys for that, so then you do not create data incorrectly, right? What we have, so usually the source is the ERP, so that's the place where everything happens, and that's being sent to the CRM. But of course, we have so many cases when things go both ways. So you can have customers from your ERP go to CRM, and then from CRM they go to ERP. So for example, something that customers use, they have this write back field for those situations. So they just store the ID of the record created in the other system, right? And then you have it in both. So you have it both in the source and the destination. So you use that as a primary key, and you prevent, the creation of any, customers, right? Because you definitely need to make sure that there is this unique ID for each one of those records. And you do that by defining, this unique ID for this record, and then you store it in both systems. So yeah, I mean, the question, when it comes to this type of integration, you can do this with any type of data. It can be master data or transactions, as long as you do define those unique keys. And like you've seen before, you can use the write back fields if you want to make sure that you have it stored. And then there are other options that you can implement to make sure that everything is unique and you don't have duplicates.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Okay, next question. Do you support custom objects?
Yeah. So I think this was again a very common question, and I think here it's good to clarify that we do have the standard templates, right? The ones that are built based on current best practices and recommendation, and according to standard processes, right? You get to have that, but of course those are not limited in the sense that you get the templates and then you can only use them as they are. No, so you can adjust those templates and then extend those, so then you can also incorporate any custom fields and then any custom objects. So from our point of view, any mapping templates are just a starting point for you. They are not frozen in the sense that you just get the specific number of objects, the specific number of fields, and there's nothing you can do to actually change it. No. So you have flexibility. You can customize it. You can change whatever you want in there, and then you can use it as it is. But then if you say, I don't want to use the templates because I have a very special process, you can go ahead and build the transfer separately. So you'll have a transfer from scratch with all your data, and you can decide which are the objects that you want. So if you have only custom objects, you just reference them, add all the fields, have the mapping in place, and then your data will go from one system to another without any issues.
Thank you again, Andrea. Okay, so last question from our side, unless we get more in the chat. So why should we choose Rapidi integration platform instead of building integration by ourselves?
Yeah, so here, of course, at the end of the day, it's a very personal choice. So yeah, it very much depends like what you want to do. But then if we want to save time, save money, and the resources that are being used, then you would go for an integration platform such as Rapidi to get things done. In our case, everything has proven to work. So we have customers that are using the platform and they integrate their systems, so everything works without issues. And then on the other side, you have the possibility to build something yourself, something in-house that you think that will have the same purpose. But of course, when it comes to building something yourself, you do have to put a lot of effort into it, time, resources, and apart from that, the team that will do that will go through through this discovery part, when they also have to they will learn things along the way, because when you're building something doesn't mean that you know what will happen ahead. You'll not know that, so you'll probably run into challenges, roadblocks, or any type of obstacles that you might encounter. So then this will actually mean that you'll have to definitely spend a lot of time on doing that and testing it and making sure it works. So it's a pretty lengthy process that you would have, and that's why I said initially it's more like a personal choice, because it's something that you decide to do, but financially it's not a good option. And then when it comes to the resources that you are using, again, it's not a great option, because then you'll have people working on something for 3 months or maybe 2 years. So then you never know where you end up with all that. So yeah, I think the conclusion is that thinking about today's world and the fact that people want things to be done fast, right? And they want to actually save money, then you go through a platform that is able to do that without any issues, and you don't need to bother about anything else.
Thank you, Andrea. We still have one more question for you. So during the integration, if we store both systems, CRM and ERP, primary key mapping in the Rapidi system, or if we keep it additional column in each system entity table?
So there are two things here. So one, you can store the primary keys or the unique IDs that belong to those records in Rapidi. So let's say you have customers, so you send them from Business Central to Salesforce. So in Business Central, you have the customer number, which is always unique. In Salesforce, you would have the account ID, which again is always unique. Those are the keys that you can save in Rapidi, in the lookup tables that I showed previously. So you can store that for all the customers that you transfer. And this applies to your transfer both ways. So it doesn't mean that it has to be only from your ERP to CRM. It can go both ways and still store the information. And then if you say, I have this, I want to also transfer customers from Salesforce to BC because end users create accounts also in Salesforce, then what you do, you have the Salesforce account, you send it to BC, and then when it reaches BC, it will create a new customer that it will be given a code, a customer number. That number can be stored back into Salesforce if you want, in a field or somewhere, and then you have a reference of that customer that you have created. And the same thing happens for BC, right? When from BC to Salesforce, the customer gets created, and then the Salesforce ID can be written back to BC. It can be sent to a field that we have available on the customer itself and see it there. So you have this option, or you can have the lookup table, which is updated constantly whenever the transfer runs, and you can use those IDs to reference the customers that you have. I think that would be, the explanation for it.
Yeah, I hope we answered everything correctly. And if we have any more doubts, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be happy to have you on a call and discuss everything. Okay, Andrea, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. As we went through today's agenda, it's time to wrap up our 2 days webinar. So we invite you to visit our website. And of course, you can contact us through the contact form on the website. If you need any more information on the website, you can have access to solution overviews, more case stories and fact sheets, and of course, more documentation on my Rapidi.com wiki. And as I mentioned before, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. And of course, we will be more than happy to have your feedback. So you have the link here in the chat. And of course, shortly after the webinar, you will receive an email with all of the slides that we shared today. And of course, you'll also find the link where you can give us your feedback and tell us if this was helpful, if you'd like to see any more information in the next webinars, or if you'd like to suggest any other topics. So thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you soon. Goodbye.